Violetta, my downstairs neighbor, asked me to look after her dog while she was away. How could I refuse? She was a pretty girl, a neat straight nose, upturned eyebrows, gray eyes, soft copper hair that fell to her shoulders. But the most attractive thing about her was her smile. Every time Violetta laughed, her face seemed to fill with light. In general, she could be characterized as pleasant and cheerful. And her dog was a brown bulldog named Twix. Short-legged, with a saggy face and protruding fangs, he looked funny, and just the sight of him made me want to laugh. I was happy to help, and it didn't interfere with my work schedule. Besides, the girl promised to pay me $300. Not much, but acceptable. Money is never too much. You have to walk him twice a day, in the morning and in the evening, Violetta explained. Feed him once a day, put water in his bowl, and play with him a little so he doesn't get bored. No problem, I replied, knowing that Twix wouldn't be a problem. He's a good dog and always jumped on me when we met at the park. Then come back tomorrow for the key and I'll tell you everything and show you. I'll be gone 5 days, 6 at the most. Where will you go? I asked. To Canada, the girl answered cheerfully, as if she was just waiting for the question. I haven't snowboarded in 1,000 years, and I haven't been on vacation for the same number of years. I want to shake things up. She laughed and stomped her foot. Do you know how to snowboard? She asked. I've never tried it, I admitted. I had only flown down the mountain on a sled when I was a kid, and then I didn't have time for it. With regret, she said, I suggest you try it sometime. I will, I promised, even though I didn't think it was for me. Then it's a deal, Violetta smiled. Day 1, after work, I went to Violetta's apartment. Twix met me at the door, wagging his tail and nearly knocking me over with his clumsy ass. He squelched and grunted. Keep your shoes on, the girl said. I'll wash everything when I get back. I don't want to bother you too much. It's actually not hard at all, I said, taking off my shoes. It would be a nuisance to disturb the order. She had a small 1-bedroom apartment, but unlike mine, it wasn't cluttered. Soft cream-colored wallpaper, a lightwood coffee table in the living room, a couch, a TV, a bookshelf, and a bunch of dried flowers. In the hall, candles on the window, white translucent curtains. On the wall is a bamboo board hung with pictures, Violetta with her dog, with friends, and the mountains with a snowboard, on the beach with a surfboard. The kitchen is bright, with only a spice shelf on the countertop, each jar labeled. On the windowsill are 2 ferns in identical pots. By the round table are chairs with velvet upholstery. It's all so cozy. I guess us guys really don't care about a lot of things. Would I buy fabric chairs just to clean them all the time? I doubt it. But you gotta admit, it looks nice. The food is right here. Violetta sat down and opened the bottom shelf. I make him porridge with canned food, but I won't burden you with it. Let him live a little on dry food. The main thing is to always have water. Oh yes, I forgot to say, after a walk, he needs to wash his paws well. Right at the doorstep, put a basin. He's so dirty, he can pick at the wet ground. But Twix treats washing normally. There shouldn't be any problems. If you want, you can sit in the living room with him, she added. We watch movies with him in the evenings. He lies down next to me, puts his head on my legs, and I stroke him. Just don't drive anyone, please, the neighbor asked. I have invested a lot of effort and money in this apartment, and I am very worried. No, suddenly, I said, cutting her off. She entrusted me with the keys, asked me to write occasionally how the dog was doing, and if something urgent to call. When the landlady left, Twix whined a little, but quickly readjusted. I walked him to the park, came back, washed his paws, and let him go. The bulldog wouldn't eat, but ran straight into the room and climbed on the couch. There was some sadness in his eyes, as if he didn't fully accept the situation and held a grudge for being left with a stranger. Twix, come on, you know me. I'm a good guy. You and I are going to be real friends. You'll see, I said. The dog turned his face away. Okay, good night. I'll see you in the morning. I turned off the light and went to my room. I looked at my watch. Oh my God. This whole thing took over an hour. That adds up to about 2 hours a day per dog. What a waste to keep animals. Although, maybe it's easier to deal with the loneliness. These thoughts kept me going as I walked up the stairs. The endless and unhelpful social media conversations, ... Maybe a dog would be better. Day 2, I got up early and went down to my neighbor's apartment. Twix seemed to have forgotten about yesterday's offense and was shaking with happiness, barking, wagging his short tail, almost toppling over, trying to reach my face with his tongue. Stop being happy. Don't fidget, I coaxed, trying to fasten the leash to his collar. It wasn't so easy. Twix was too excited, lashing out, jumping, wriggling with delight. In all the commotion, I put my phone on the nightstand by the mirror for a second so it wouldn't get in the way, and completely forgot to take it when I left the apartment. I noticed it missing only in the park when I wanted to take a picture of Twix for Viola and send her a small report, say, everything is fine, I'm doing my duties, I'm walking the dog, but I didn't have my cell phone in my pocket. It didn't seem like a big deal, but when Twix and I got home, it wasn't on the nightstand, and I remembered exactly and clearly that I'd left it there. Where could it have gone? The dog waited patiently on the mat while I washed his paws. Okay, I'll find him later, I said, took off my shoes, and went to the bathroom to get a basin. And what was my surprise when I saw the missing cell phone ... It was lying right on the sink. What? I whispered. I hadn't even gone further into the apartment than the hallway this morning. The cell phone's protective glass was damaged, a web of cracks stretching from the corner of the screen, as if someone had grabbed it and thrown it into the sink. My heart thudded alarmingly. Had someone come in here while I was gone? And then I heard a fierce bark. I shuddered. Twix was standing in the living room, dirty paws on the carpet, looking toward the bedroom. He was barking loudly, snapping, the fur on his withers standing up. It was dark behind the ajar door, ... But I was sure someone was hiding in there. My first thought was that some ex of Viola's had broken in. Maybe he saw someone else's cell phone, tried to unlock it, failed, and threw it in the sink in a rage. That's not what a mugger would do. This idiot probably heard us coming back and lurked in the bedroom. Hey, show yourself, I shouted. I didn't recognize my own voice. It was much lower and rougher than usual. Inside, though, everything trembled. Shyly, I stepped forward and looked out into the room. Looked to the right, to the left. No one. Then suddenly, Twix stopped talking. He smacked his slobbery mouth as if nothing had happened and went into the kitchen. Is someone here? I muttered, moving closer to the doorway. But there were no footprints on the floor, no one under the bed, no one in the closet, also empty. The apartment was quiet. Twix was already loudly lapping water in the kitchen, as if he'd forgotten that a minute ago he'd been barking furiously at nothing. I checked all the rooms, looked in the bathroom. It was as if no one had ever entered the apartment. But then who threw my phone in the sink? There was no explanation, but I didn't want to bother Viola for nothing. I figured I'd tell her later. Evening, I came home from work. As soon as the keys jingled in the lock, Twix barked happily and rushed over to me, stepping on my feet as if we hadn't seen each other in forever, not just a few hours. But for some reason, I felt anxiety stirring inside me again. I wanted to grab the dog's leash and go for a walk. To dispel the uneasy feeling, I crouched down to fasten the leash to the collar, ... And suddenly I saw clearly someone standing behind me. It was like a tall man casting a long shadow. I jerked in horror and looked up sharply. There was no one, no person, no shadow, an empty hallway. But I saw someone close by. The certainty was so strong that I broke into a cold sweat. Twix, sensing my excitement, suddenly froze. He sat still and looked me straight in the eye. I pulled out my phone and, without thinking, dialed Viola. She was supposed to warn me if anything strange was going on in our house. Yes, her voice was as cheerful as usual. Hey, listen, is everything okay with your apartment? I asked, feeling my throat tingle. What do you mean? Violetta was surprised. Well, I don't know. Maybe you thought someone came in? Or, strange things happening? No, she answered firmly. I've never had anything strange happen to me. Why? I felt uncomfortable. Maybe it really was all just my imagination. Maybe I was tired. No, I just felt like there was someone in the apartment, but there wasn't. My imagination was running wild, I guess. I mumbled. How's my Twix? She asked. I was relieved at the change of subject. He's fine. We're going for a walk right now. That's great. Listen, will you take some pictures for me? I miss my little bundle of joy so much. No problem. Give him the phone. To who? I asked you again. The dog, of course. I was surprised. It was weird. But okay. I put the phone to Twix's ear. Violetta began to ask him in a squeaky voice how he was doing and if I was hurting him. The dog, hearing his mistress bark happily, began to spin around, looking for her with his eyes. Then he whined sadly. I took the phone. Well, chat it. I grinned. Oh, yes, Violetta laughed. Well, I should be going now. Thank you for your help. I'll be waiting for the pictures. No problem, I promised and dropped the call. But the feeling of unease didn't go away. Day 3. Day 3 was a day off, and I didn't have to get up too early. I took my time drinking my coffee, showered, and then went down to Viola's apartment. I waited for Twix's storm of joy to subside, hooked the leash to his collar, and led him out the door. I promised myself not to get too worked up, no mysticism, just random coincidences. And after the walk, we could stay in Viola's apartment so the dog wouldn't get bored, watch a movie, play with him. In the courtyard, we ran into an elderly neighbor. I didn't remember her name, just a lady in a red beret. Oh, did you marry Viola or what? She asked unceremoniously, looking at the dog. I laughed. Somehow I was pleased that she thought so. No, what makes you think that? I just see you walking her dog, the neighbor replied. Is Violetta sick or something? No, she's fine. She just went on vacation, I explained and was about to leave, but the woman suddenly frowned. What do you mean she's gone? When? 3 days ago? Sure, the woman in the beret frowned. I saw her yesterday. Vioka stood at the window and waved at me. I got a chill inside. It can't be, I muttered. Maybe she's confused about something, or maybe she's just a weird old lady. But then the woman suddenly raised her hand and pointed her finger upward. There she is. She's standing there. I turned around, looked up, and my heart sank. There was indeed someone standing in the kitchen window, but it wasn't Violetta. Or rather, something like her, but not quite. An altered copy, bright, almost snake-like eyes, pointed nose, sickly pale skin, and that creepy grin, revealing crooked yellow teeth. The creature slowly raised a hand and waved it at me. Twix snarled and barked, his fur on his withers standing up. He did not see the creature as human, but the lady in the red beret didn't seem to notice anything strange. She waved back with a nonchalant look. Good morning, Violoshka. She shouted joyfully. I stood there, paralyzed with horror. And then I blinked, and the silhouette disappeared. It just vanished. Liar, muttered the neighbor, and went her way, leaving me with a pounding heart and barking Twix. After the walk to the park, I decided I wasn't going back to Viola's apartment. Not even for bowls and food. I brought the bulldog back to my apartment. Twix whined, looking around in the unfamiliar hallway. His canine mind clearly couldn't understand why he had been brought here. There was anxiety in his small, dark eyes. I felt sorry for him. I found a basin, took an old towel, washed the dog's feet, and led him into the room. "Make yourself at home," I said. Then I pulled out my cell phone and texted Viola. I didn't bother telling the truth. That would have sounded too crazy. I wrote the first thing that came to mind. "Hi, Violetta." Twix was bored, so I took him in. "It's more comfortable. He's under constant supervision." The answer came quickly. "Okay." And a couple minutes later, another message. "Thank you for taking care of him." I set Twix up with 2 bowls, one for water and one for food. At a nearby store, I bought a small bag of good dry food. The dog ate with gusto. Everything was in order. All that was left was to wait for Viola to return. There were 3 days left. Twix has settled into my home and I've grown fond of him. I realized that an animal can lift my spirits. Bulldog, cheerfully wacky, checked every corner of the rooms, was always happy to play and just lie around. I wanted to take an example from him, to be able to enjoy the routine and stay happy every day. But the memory of what had happened kept me awake. The image of a distorted copy of Viola kept popping up in my mind. You'd think I was going crazy ... But my elderly neighbor saw the same thing. Every time I went out into the yard, I looked at the windows, tried to see something through the curtains, but I couldn't see anything else strange. What is it? I had a haunting thought in my head. When Violetta comes back, I'll tell her everything. On the last evening, I received a message from her. "I'm on my way from the station. I'll be back soon to pick up Twix. I've missed him so much." "Okay, we'll wait," I replied, unsuspecting. The dog collapsed on the couch. I wanted to see his reaction when the owner arrived, but her arrival was no fun at all. Half an hour later, the door shook with a furious knock. I opened it and saw a pale Viola. She was breathing heavily and staring at me with wide open eyes. "What the fuck?" She screamed in my face. "What are you talking about?" I was scared. Twix, sensing his mistress's mood, didn't cheer, just rolled around at her feet. "About what you did to my apartment," she exclaimed. "Violetta, I didn't do anything, I swear. Then why is it such a mess?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Did you bring someone? Did you give me the keys? What happened while I was gone? Can I see it?" I asked confusedly. Violetta grabbed the leash off the hook and nodded briefly. "Let's go." We went downstairs and she opened the door for me. Don't tell me Twix did it. He couldn't have. I walked in and it was chaos. The mirror in the hallway was broken. The drawer of the knitstand was on the floor. Spices scattered in the kitchen, shards of flower pots mixed in with the soil. In the living room, overturned furniture, tattered photographs, scattered things. Oh my God, it was like a hurricane in here. "Violetta, trust me, it's not Twix. I have something incredible to tell you." I spoke quickly so she wouldn't interrupt me. "Remember when I called and asked if you'd noticed anything strange? Well, there's some kind of evil thing living in your apartment. I saw it with my own eyes. I was scared to be here, so I took Twix back to my place." Another tear rolled down the girl's cheeks. "Give me the keys and get out of here," she said quietly. "Don't expect any money from me, Violetta." I wanted to ask for a minute to explain, but she yelled. I said, "Get the keys and get out of here, or I'll call the police." What could I do? I silently put the keys in her hand and left. Now the neighbor didn't talk to me or even say hello. We'd meet on the street, but she'd look away. Twix would recognize me, reach for me, but Violetta would yank the leash and lead him away in the opposite direction. Unfair. It wasn't my fault what happened. I tried to forget the story. But one day, Violetta spoke to me. She called out to me in the street. "Wait." I stopped, watching her anxiously as she ran up. "Hi," the girl said. "Hi," I swallowed. "I'm so sorry, please," she said quietly, lowering her eyes. I froze. That was definitely something I didn't expect to hear. I realized you were right. There's something in my apartment. There's something living in my apartment. Something evil. Did you see it? I exclaimed. She shook her head. No, I haven't. But whoever comes to visit is uncomfortable. They say they see a scary face in the dark. Twix howls at the corners, and the neighbor says she sees me standing at the window all day long, even though I'm not even home at that time. Now I could tell her everything. About the phone that ended up in the sink, about Twix barking at the empty room, about the shadow above me, the creepy copy in the window. What a creepy thing, whispered Violetta. Why is that thing so quiet in front of me? Maybe she likes you, I suggested. The girl shuddered. I still don't want to live with it. What do I do? Sprinkle holy water in the corners, say a prayer, or go around the house with a church candle? That's what my mom used to do, said it warded off evil spirits. Did it work? Violetta asked. I shrugged. I don't know. I don't think we had any spirits. Thanks, I'll give it a try, she nodded. I'll regret giving her that advice for the rest of my life. The next day, there was a scream from downstairs. Violetta screamed so loudly that my ears rang. And then it went quiet. In the silence, only a dog's howl could be heard. I ran out the door and down the stairs, sensing trouble. The door to the apartment was open. It was as if the creature wanted me to enter. In the living room, leaning against the corner, lay Violetta. Her eyes and mouth remained open. An extinguished church candle was clutched in her hand. Twix was sitting next to her, nuzzling her face and howling at the ceiling. I called the ambulance and the police. They said she had a heart condition. But what did she see in that corner? I couldn't leave Twix an orphan. He lives with me now. We've become real friends. We comfort each other. When we go for a walk, he stops for a few seconds at her former apartment, pulls his nose and whimpers softly. The smiling Viola is gone. That's something to come to terms with. Life goes on.